Welcome to Full Disclosure. It is I, Christopher Gilliam, and today I have with me a aspiring journalist, Christopher DiVincenzo. No relation, and we're going to talk about basically the fake woke on Twitter. So, could you explain to our viewers what I mean when I say the fake woke?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on Twitter for years, mostly lurking in the shadows, and I've been noticing that there are what would appear to be, from an outsider's perspective, these uh, natural grassroots type trends, things that like disrupt this, boycott this, all of these trends that occur on Twitter. And I started to notice a little bit of a pattern. I was picking up on some of the same users over and over again, retweeting, picking up on each other, sharing the same stories and news and info. And I thought, well, that's a little strange. It always seems to be the same folks, the same trends, even the same timeline. And always seem to happen on a Tuesday. So, some of the natural pattern detectors in my brain go off, and I'm like, I've got to research this and find out what's really going on. Am I being fed a bunch of BS? Is this a real movement? Is this a real trend? Or is this somebody organizing behind the scenes, then going out to Twitter and making it look like it's a trend to generate some news, generate some buzz, and push a narrative? And let's be honest here, I guess, is the left tends to be really, really good at pushing narratives, pushing these grassroots type organized efforts, and to me that felt like it felt completely fake, like you said, fake woke. So I dug in a little bit, and I did find some interesting stuff. And I guess if there is a way to share my screen, I'd love to be able to share that and show you one of the examples that I come across. And I think I found it out. Oh, it's been disabled, so I'll need your help there.
Can you share at the? You should be able to share at the bottom. Now, to ask you,
So
is there an option for you to share at the bottom?
there is. And so I've got the screen shared right now, I believe. So I want to just show you.
Beautiful. Now to I just want to ask you here. Now, Twitter. I mean, Twitter has like tens of millions of users, if not hundreds of million, doesn't it?
Tons. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a
So,
huge
so
platform.
what you're saying to me is that you're running into the same people over and over, pushing the same kind of message. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
yeah, on trends. And I honestly, it's going to be hard to say that these are organized efforts without clear, substantial evidence to say that these folks are getting on maybe a Zoom call and participating in some organized effort to push that particular narrative. But it's something that struck me as, wow, these are the same people. I'm seeing them push the same types of messages, and it just interested me. And
So, so you're running into the same people on the hottest trends when in theory you should be running into millions of people.
I would imagine, and maybe it has something to do with Twitter's algorithm. Maybe it has something to do with these folks just retweeting each other, or even my own search patterns. I
Well,
couldn't tell you, but it is
knowing,
interesting.
knowing how trends work, it would seem to me that if the same people keep pushing the same particular topic, it's going to become a trend, whether it's on Twitter or something else. That's just how it works on the internet. So
You would assume, and you should
that's
be able to
very
see.
interesting. So I'm curious to see what you have to show us.
Right. So as I'm looking at this, and I'm gonna dig in. So this is one of these fake trends that I noticed. I want to share this real quick just to emphasize a little bit of what I'm seeing. So, and I'm just going to back the video up here, and I apologize for it moving a little bit fast, but here we have this reallyamerican.com. This is a group. They push out a lot of leftist, progressive, liberal, Democrat type uh, items, political and cultural items, and they push out a lot of this stuff. And with this group, and I believe it's a super PAC. I believe they work with Act Blue. I've seen a lot of the same people, and I'm going to point out a couple of the people as we go along the video here. So what we have is a trending divest in Georgia, which is #1 trend in Twitter. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through the timeline here and what happens. So now this guy, Brooklyn Dad Defiant, I've seen him all over. He's a huge anti-Trump guy. He's actually a paid DNC operative. He's been paid. He actually failed to file some documents that he was required to file in relation to his payments, and a lot of people are wondering whether or not those payments related to him having to work via Twitter with the Democrats.
So you know this.
This Chip Franklin inside the Beltway.com.
Yeah, but how do you, if you go up to more, how do you know that individual, all that information that you know about that guy?
Yeah, and I'll actually pull that up on another page here. But what I wanted to share right now is, if you look, I mean, it's the same video. It's some of the shortest tweets you can imagine, all different people, all retweeting each other, all pushing the same narrative with the same video. And I mean, this looks organized. This does not look grassroots. This does not look like something that you're going to, you're going to see a lot of different opinions on a lot of different topics. And I'm seeing the same people over and over again, retweeting each other, quote tweeting each other, sharing the same information, sharing the same video, and really just trying to push this stuff out. This is a video. Sorry, go ahead.
Keep seeing the same hashtag, and I mean, you can easily use a hashtag tag with a coordinated group to really get something trending, can't you? And look at that. Can we get 1,000 replies using the hashtag divest in Georgia to get it trending?
Of course, and that's the goal. They want to get it trending. They want to put it in the face of, you know, the Twitterverse, which I think would eventually lead, or what they hope is to lead to, a greater narrative that ends up in media and that ends up in people's minds, and really pushes the narrative that they're trying to work with. And you can tell it's clear as day to me. And I encourage anyone that wants to test this theory on their own, go on a Tuesday, go onto Twitter, check the trending hashtags, and look at all of the same people. You're gonna see this really American. You're gonna see Chip Franklin. You're gonna see this Brooklyn Dad Defiant guy. You're gonna see all of these same people over and over and over again, retweeting the same items. I don't know if they're automated, but I've actually got some evidence to show that they might be here. And if you'll excuse me, one thing that go ahead.
Interesting. Tuesday, you mentioned. I mean, that tends to be a day where the economy tends to be a little bit slower on Tuesdays. People tend to be home more. We know this from our backgrounds and our personal lives, that there's a lot less house calls on Tuesday.
Okay.
We know this. We know this as a given. We know that Tuesday is a slower day economically. We know that people are home on their computers more on Tuesday. So, I mean, do you think there's a correlation there?
I couldn't tell you, but honestly, it makes sense. I imagine it would be quite effective if you want to pick a time and a day to start pushing, you know, whatever information and news you want to push, whatever narrative you want to push, and you're a paid DNC shill, like we talked about. And I'm actually going to share that real quick. So this is this Brooklyn Defiant guy, whatever his name is. I don't know. He changes his name a couple times. He's a huge Joe Biden supporter. He's a booster for Joe Biden. He actually was hit up by the left for not supporting Bernie Sanders, asking Bernie Sanders, or urging Bernie Sanders to drop out of the 2020 presidential race, which, if you know anything about the left, you know Bernie Sanders was the most popular candidate on the left, especially during primaries. And this guy, his name is Padellin. Now, he's actually a senior advisor to the PAC, and this is, I believe, that really American PAC. And he failed to report some interesting payments. We see we got a screenshot here, vendor recipient profile, Padellin Majid, and he had a total reported payments during the 2020 cycle of $57,000. So he's literally paid to be on Twitter. He's literally paid by the Democrat Party to be on Twitter. He's a DNC show. He's a DNC operative. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is what it is. But when I see this guy, along with these guys, the Really American Pack, along with all of these other folks.
See, I disagree with you because there's dishonesty in this. I mean, people are being completely misled by this sort of thing. You know, they think this is a real person they're listening to, and it's
Yeah,
not.
I can totally see your point there. And I mean, you know, when you're finding people,
When you're talking about a pack that spends hundreds of millions of dollars, and I see a $57,000 salary, they could pay that 1,000 times over, and you've got a pretty strong Twitter campaign that is going to get people to believe that there's this huge mob out there pushing certain agendas, that, you know, and that these are citizens in a huge uproar, but they're not. They're employees.
Well, you point out something so important there, that this huge uproar. There's all of these citizens, all of these people that are concerned. And what was the trend that we were looking at right now, which was I think it was, you know, divest Georgia or boycott Georgia, something like that, right?
Divest Georgia, I believe it was.
And what's happened recently? We've had Coca-Cola, we've had Delta, we've had Microsoft, we've had all of these CEOs and big corporations coming out in, I guess, anti-support for the new perfect, great legislation that was put out in Georgia. I think you talked about that in another episode, and I know we've discussed it privately, and really amazing election security, integrity bill, and definitely a lot of great things to improve access to voting as well.
Easier to vote.
Yeah, exactly.
While it improves security.
Yep, improve security, improve waiting in line, lowering the line wait time, which I think everybody
really modernized voting is what it did. It modernized it.
Right. And it was needed. It was definitely needed. There was a lot of concerns about election integrity. You know, definitely some falsehoods out there, definitely some, you know, concerns out there about disinformation, but there was a lot of concern regardless. And that's not something you can take lightly. And so Georgia did their job, wasn't derelict in their duty, did their job, took care of the voting. And what do they get for it? Well, they get these divest in Georgia trends. They get these organized, seemingly organized efforts from the left and from Democrats. And this is what kind of bothers me, because those organized efforts then turn into a corporate campaign against certain politicians or certain political aspects, certain cultural aspects in cases. And I'm seeing this all over the place. And it, like you said, it's not genuine. It's not genuine. It's not thousands of people. In fact, and this will bring me, I guess, to our next topic, is a Pew Research article determined that U.S. adult Twitter users tend to be younger, more democratic. Nothing wrong with that. You know, more savvy people on the internet are younger. That's fine. But they 10% of them create 80% of the tweets. That's
it doesn't seem right, does it?
If you're going to base your company decisions, and a lot of companies are doing this nowadays, if you're going to base your company decisions on 10% of one subset of the entire nation, I think that's dangerous. I think that's silly. And I don't think it will benefit anybody in the long run. I honestly think it will just create further divisiveness, especially if you're doing it based on some fake outrage, some fake woke, rage-inducing tweet storm from some paid organizers. You know, I mean, I could give somebody $100 right now to go, you know, send 5,000 tweets. And what's stopping me from doing that? What's stopping me from paying somebody on Fiverr to create a bunch of bot accounts, to jump on Twitter and to share a bunch of hashtags, other than maybe Twitter itself? What's stopping me from doing that? What's stopping these folks from organizing and pushing out these false narratives, which then multinational companies and corporations pick up on and assume they need to do something because of these trending tweet storms? I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that our society at this point and our corporations and companies feel the need to jump into the fray, jump into hot button political issues. And
do you remember the term from when we were about 10 years younger, being phished, when your social media account would get compromised because you clicked a stupid link you shouldn't have?
Yeah, I do
It,
recall.
it's to me, it feels almost as if corporations are being politically fished right now.
Yeah, they're being
And,
defrauded. Absolutely. And, you know, I feel like a lot of it is good intentions. A lot of it is real concern. Maybe these corporations, I mean, they have a lot of shareholders, they get a lot of stakeholders in the corporations and companies, and a lot of people that may be asking them to do something, or at least that's the perception that's made. If you think millions of people are going to stop using your product, I would be compelled. Yeah, I know you're a small business owner. Were
yeah.
I a business owner, I would be compelled. In my current business, I would be compelled to resolve some of these issues if they were telling me, and many people were telling me, hey, all of these things, all of these problems are existing, and you need to do something about it. But I'm not seeing that there's a legitimate concern, especially when we look at the research and we're determined that 80% of these tweets are coming from 10% of their users. And what is that? I think, I'm sorry, I don't have the figures right in front of me. We can definitely
Well,
attach those
if
there.
some of those people are being paid to the tune of $57,000 a year, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm pretty conservative, but if it kept to the only thing that comes before my core beliefs is taking care of my family, and I got to tell you, if I had to jump on Twitter and say stupid things to keep a roof over the heads of my children, I'd probably do it. So,
You might
I mean,
have to, you might be forced to. And that's what I think is happening a lot here is that these companies, these corporations are being forced to take a side, to take a position. They're being demanded it of these trends.
yeah,
And they keep
especially if they
using
think
the
they're
air
real.
quotes.
If I'm the trendsetter, if I'm one of these people being, possibly paid by the DNC, possibly paid by some other third party, $57,000. If I'm 20 years old, that's a lot of money. Um,
Absolutely.
how the hell am I going to match that income with almost no work experience? I mean,
Right.
that's
And if this guy does nothing more than tweet, I mean, maybe he does other consulting work or other, campaign organizing or whatever. But if all he does is tweet and he gets $57,000, he could have a completely, this is a side job. This is a hobby, and he's getting 57K to walk away with, um, to create some crazy trends. And um, I actually want to share one more thing here because I think it's important to note.
it shows how powerful money can be in our politics if what we're talking about is real.
Right? Well, money and information. And I just want to share. So, this is the top 22 retweeted users in the last 50 trending topics. This was a study uh, done for on trends, data driven mostly by mainstream media.
Okay.
And I thought this was kind of interesting because so the top 22 retweeted users, several of these were CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Huffington Post, CBS, BBC, Routers. These are mainstream establishment media entities, and they're the trendsetters. They really are the most prolific trendsetters. And this is outside of that organization or cadre of people that are putting together uh, what appears to be their organized effort to push certain trends. But when we look at news and information and where information is sourced, I'll tell you, I'm seeing articles nowadays where Twitter was the source of the article. Twitter was the primary source of the information that was cited. And as hilarious as that is to me, as somebody who's not one of the 22% of Americans who actually use Twitter, and I'm going to dial back a little and emphasize that. So only 22% of Americans currently use Twitter. That was shown in another recent
Well,
Pew
that's way
research.
lower than I would have thought, to be honest with you.
You would imagine, and especially if the news cycle is being not only run most prolifically by the establishment media, as well as regurgitated back by that same media based on the trends that they set. What's going on here? I mean, the media is creating the trends and then reporting on the comments from the trends as though they are sourcing the material from raw grassroots movements that in large part we're finding are organized by paid promoters of it. And
In a way, what you're saying is they're sourcing a controversy that they themselves created.
what do we call that? I think Nancy Pelosi had a name for that. I think it was called the wrap up. You know, nothing against Nancy Pelosi. I mean, at least she told it like it is. But
I'll say it against Nancy Pelosi. To hell with her. She's as crooked as they come. The only reason she still exists in politics is because she happens to live in a district that's like plus 28 Democrat. She wouldn't exist otherwise.
it's interesting how many politicians can continue to exist despite their flaws.
I'll play devil's advocate and say it's the same with Mitch McConnell, and I like Mitch, but he probably would have been ousted at some point if he weren't in a district that's plus 20 something Republican. That's how it is. If you have somebody that really can't be unelected, they're probably going to become, I don't know, a majority leader or a House Speaker or something. It seems to be how it works. I'm just saying, watch AOC's career. Even though she absolutely should be as far away from politics as possible, I would not be surprised to see her rise through the ranks as her illustrious career of nonsense continues, which, hey, the only reason I exist is because of her. So someday I hope I can send her that $8,000 bottle of wine and say thank you. But anyways.
Definitely should. And no, I understand what you mean. And AOC is a rising star for sure. You know, what bothers me endlessly about all of this, and I know, a lot of it is conjecture. A lot of it is, looking into patterns that may or may not exist, and that's fine. I think our reporting is probably as valid as any in the media nowadays, just as your reputable career was rocketed by looking at the inefficiencies in somebody like AOC's character and credentials. I think we're just as right to be, citizen journalists or citizen, politicians as anyone else in the field. And I think our politicians these days prove it to us time and time again that they are no better, they are no more elite, they are no different than anybody else here. And I think we all have a right to put this stuff together, to share information with each other, and
disseminate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Disseminate it and work together to really organize efforts on our values and our principles.
No, I invite somebody to shut this down. Seriously, I do, so that we can go back and we can look and say, oh, okay, if we were wrong, we were wrong. Okay, we're closer to the truth, right?
That's what should be important. The truth.
What should be important.
When you have the media gaslighting themselves to gaslight the American people, I find the truth harder to find nowadays. And that's a problem. I think that's a real problem in our society in general. I mean, when you can find
it is a problem, and I suspect that it's going to be the free market that ultimately addresses it, because the problem is you can't have the government directly address it, because Stalin did that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. It didn't work.
No, it had other really horrible unintended consequences, such as more people murdered than even Adolf Hitler did. History lesson for those watching this: Joseph Stalin killed more people than Adolf Hitler. So I do take very seriously the idea of, well, what was it he said? He said the media is the enemy of the people, and he went from there. A lot of people died. So we know that option's off the table. We cannot do that. At the same time, we can't pretend that the media isn't being media anymore. At what point do they cross the line where they're not doing journalism anymore and they're fabricating stories? And we know this has been done by CNN. We have this on authority, indisputable evidence. Dozens, hundreds of times on.
Retractions on the 13th page, on the 5th paragraph. Yeah. This happens so frequently now that honestly, it's not even being hidden. CNN still maintains, unlike various other networks, that Louis Farrakhan is a far right actor, which I obviously, I mean, it got a chuckle out of you. I think most Americans would find that hilarious. Anybody who knows Louis Farrakhan and his connections to the Democrat Party would find that rather humorous. But CNN would like to report something different, despite the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, any of the other major media corporations came out and corrected this. But CNN, no, they're going to keep it fair. They're going to keep it the way they thought it was. Louis Farrakhan is now far right. Whatever. But yeah, as far as, trying to ensure that citizen journalists, that, folks that have now unparalleled access to information and, don't be disheartened because, all of this stuff is easily sourced. It's easily out there. You do have to do some digging. You do have to do some research. You have to find out what's going on. So I encourage everybody to do that, of course. Everybody should become their own journalist. Everybody should become their own source of record and information and research it, dig in, find out for yourself while you're making these very important decisions about, our country, our future, our politics. Don't rely on somebody else to assign an opinion to you. I think that's one of the most dangerous things that could happen, is because a lot of the time you're not getting a fair shake. You're being gaslit by unfortunately what has become our medium. Like you said, I think we've crossed that line. Unfortunately, I think most Americans notice that we've definitely crossed that line between.
I think there's no doubt that some of these institutions are not actually media, and that we do need to do something to hold them accountable. What my one concern and hesitation, I suppose, would be as an elected official is making sure that whatever that action is doesn't spill over into actual journalists, because we need actual journalists. I said on my last episode, there's something deeply wrong here, because I am a member of government and I'm holding the media accountable. That's completely ass backwards and ridiculous.
100%.
That is not supposed to be how it works. It's supposed to be where the media makes me answer for what I do, because I'm the one who writes the laws and whatnot.
Right.
So
Right.
when that's not happening and they're just reporting complete fabrications the way they do on SB 202,
It's insane.
it is.
You've got the bully pulpit right now saying that this is the new Jim Crow era. What?
It's kind of a smack in the face to those that lived and died during that era.
Absolutely. And
I don't see anybody being sprayed down into a corner with a fire hose. I'm sorry, but I don't. It's not happening.
Nobody's being blocked or segregated from nobody's getting equal but different polling places. In fact, the SB 202 bill equalizes both of the different types of voting, all of the different types of voting, whether it be absentee or polling in person, which voter ID was always a requirement for polling in person in Georgia, and now it's a requirement. Now it's a requirement in absentee balloting. Why wouldn't it be? They expanded early voting. They actually increased the number of hours and times, and I believe it was a leftist.
And days, don't forget they included Sunday voting and expanded Saturday voting.
And what you hear from the media right now, and I'm sorry, not even just the media, but what you hear from prominent Democrats right now is that this new bill is a voter suppression tactic. And they don't explain that. And there's a really good reason why they don't explain where the voter suppression is. They'll give you tidbits. They'll say, well, you can't give water to people in line, which is not true. They'll say, you can't, and I know you've gone in depth, so if we're covering something you've already covered, we can just skip right along. But this does drive me crazy when you see Joe Biden and you see the prominent Democrats and you see the media establishment all collaborating on this really, really, really dangerous and bad idea that Black people don't have agency, that Black and brown persons of color and historically marginalized communities are incapable of performing regular societal functions in America. That to me is such a racist insinuation that
I agree. On my last video, it took me a 10-second DuckDuckGo search. You like that implied little? Anyways,
I don't know. What's that other one? Goggles or something? I don't even know.
They're stupid. Don't use them.
They don't work.
But it took me a 10-second DuckDuckGo search to figure out how to get a free voter ID that can be shipped to you, that can be mailed to you, that you can get if you're homeless.
But my suppression.
Listen, I am not Stephen Hawking. If I could figure this out, guess what? So can anybody else. Because everybody else is the same, god damn it. Sorry to take the
I
Lord's name
agree with you,
from
but
the evangelicals, but you know what? When I got people that are saying that some people are less than others, that really fires me up. So
it's incredibly frustrating. I think, I've grown up with folks that have felt that way throughout their entire lives, that they can't do something prominent, they can't do something great, they can't become president, they can't, and I am mortified that, I grew up with friends that felt this way, to the point where um to hear that lie be continued in our current society in 2021, we have racist Democrats telling you that you as a Black person, you as a person of color, you as a Mexican, like I said, any of these persons of color, you are incapable of taking care of yourself, of being responsible for your own actions, of taking agency over your own life, of being able to provide for yourself, to the point where you need some liberal savior to come riding on a white horse. I mean, talk about white supremacy.
oh, but
That's it right
they,
there.
they say you can't think for yourself either. You can't use faculties of
You can't
reason.
use the internet. That's talk to our POTUS. He says, and maybe this was a slip up. Honestly, probably a Freudian slip for him. If you've heard any of his previous quotes,
How many
but
there have been? Hey, look, he was the one that said poor kids can do just as well in school as white kids. That was him. You know what? I'll link that video in the description for anyone who doesn't believe me.
You should. And while we're linking stuff, link the wrap up, because I think, cutting back to the original topic of one of the tactics of Democrats, which is to create this fake grassroots, this woke messaging, and make it appear as though it's real and it's scary, and all these corporations have to capitulate to all of these concerns from all of these people. Look up the wrap up, Samir, and Nancy Pelosi, I think, identifies it beautifully. She says, what we do is we throw out a little bit of news, a reporter reports on it, and then we talk about it because a reporter reported on it, and then the reporters report all about it. We call it the wrap up, Samir. Of course, horrible paraphrasing. I can't do the thing where my teeth are falling out of my mouth like she does. So please forgive me. But or she's kind of chewing on cud or whatever it is. But she she explains it beautifully. Look it up, the wrap up, Smear, or maybe link it, and it's
it must be nice to be so privileged where you can count on the media to do half your work for you. Seriously, I mean, if you want evidence that Republicans are the better politicians, you think of the institution they have against them and look at how they still hold their ground. I'm sorry, but maybe it's not even that they're better politicians. Maybe it's just that when one side has policy that actually works and does good for people, maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's the ground they're making up.
I think that should be the difference, shouldn't it? And
yeah.
I gather from other folks that maybe that's not what they want it to be. They don't want things that work. When's the last policy from a prominent, Democrat standpoint, from a leftist standpoint, that worked, that actually worked, that resolved the problem they were seeking to fix? I can't think of one.
It would have to, if we're talking about a problem that's actually good for the citizens and not something like Obama jailing journalists.
Let's talk about Obamacare. What was that? What was the resolution? The problem was not enough people have good health care, good affordable health care.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how did that go? I don't even have to say it. I could probably talk to anybody on the left even right now, and I'd say,
well, I ended up with a mafia-induced sort of tax where it was either listen, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Either you're going to get this health coverage that doesn't cover any of the things you need, or you're going to pay about $3,200 on your taxes. What's it going to be? That's a terrible Italian accent, but you get the idea.
As an Italian, I am deeply offended, sir.
You should be. Yeah, it was really bad. But
It's fine.
um, point is, as some people who are watching this know, in 2016, I was a Trump is the worst because the media said so's. And one of the first things he did was make that go away. It was really hard to ignore the impact that had on my life, because I went from owing on taxes when I was already struggling and hurting and had just had a child, to all of a sudden I had a tax refund
All right.
because of something that should have never been. It was really hard to ignore that. I was like, wait a minute, I thought the media said that this guy was all about big business. Why did this like tax larceny go away? Whatever I'm trying
That
to
was
call it.
supposed to hurt me.
Yeah.
I would actually ask anybody on the left, and hopefully some folks on the left on
What, 2016, 2017 that happened, where he repealed where the Obamacare thing would crush your taxes if if you didn't have insurance. Um, that was where I couldn't ignore that something wasn't adding up.
Right, right. Well, and I think the promise was that the care was going to be more affordable, more available, and if you liked your doctor, you were going to get to keep your doctor. None of those things were true.
Nope, none of
It
them.
wasn't for bad intentions either. I mean, I think, unfortunately, for the left, and maybe I'm being a little bit too generous here,
Maybe.
but I honestly think that for the most part, they believe their policies are going to affect a positive change, but they don't.
I think this is, even though there's evidence of this kind of thing not working in the past, I think the reason that they don't see it is because I honestly don't think they do the work. Some of these prominent figures, that is, I don't think they do the work. I don't think they do the studying. I don't think, I think they're the same kids that cut out a class whenever they could in junior year of high school. I'm sorry if that's overgeneralizing, but
It's almost
they
like they work really, really hard at being popular and being perceived well, and then they don't have any time left to actually do anything effective.
Woodrow
They
Wilson, progressive president. Jimmy Carter, progressive president. Lyndon B. Johnson, progressive president. Joe Biden, progressive president. I swear to God, they've all had the same original idea, except for maybe LBJ. He was more concerned with, he didn't like the fact that in 1940 the black population was at 88%. And then in 1960 it shrunk to 47%. And that was too fast for him. So he said, if you don't have a two-parent household, we'll give you more money than you're making right now. He applied that to all races, to be fair, but he knew damn well that the highest poverty rate still in 1960 was the black community. He knew that. Go back to 1960, they were the fastest rising income group, demographically speaking. No question. They were also the highest two-parent household rate, no question. And even long before 1960, which correlates directly to their insane rise of success despite racist policies like Jim Crow that could not stop them. And then here comes Lyndon B. Johnson with, well, if you just split your family up, we'll give you a government check that you can never stop cashing. And that was how we learned that when you grow up without a father, crime skyrockets, particularly if you're a young man. And, well, now you have the same left sitting there saying, well, that's just how it is over there. No, that's how it is if you do that to any group of people. If you'd done the same thing to white people, we'd be the ones doing all the crime. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You have to have a two-parent household. Listen, when I was a 14-year-old boy, my dad moved out because my mom was a meth addict and he couldn't take it anymore. And I was left alone at 14 with just my mom, and she had to work. And guess what I did? I committed crime like crazy. I fell in with the wrong people, and I did stupid, stupid things that the only reason that I'm here in front of this camera is because I wasn't caught doing those stupid, stupid things. And I'm very lucky that some of those things I did didn't result in someone getting hurt. You know,
Yeah.
just random, silly, stupid, crazy things.
Well, it's
And I guarantee if my father had been there, it would have never happened. He would have whooped my ass,
mhm.
especially if he found out and he would not have held back. Wouldn't have it happened. He would have been like, oh, like hell. It
Yeah.
would not have happened. So, I mean, I speak from experience here. I should be a statistic, and I'm not for some stupid, crazy, odd reason. And you take a society, you take a group of people that you used like a block of wood, like a chess piece, for your political agenda, because you knew they were vulnerable, and you turn them from the highest two-parent household rate into the highest single motherhood rate at 77%.
What do you expect?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Exactly.
and I don't
And
think enough people
Democrats have
look at those roots.
Democrats have doubled down on those policies ever since.
Right. And they continue to enact. I would hate to apply malice in this situation, but they can continue to work to enact policies that would continue that issue, but also enact, dangerous ideas and lies that continue to subjugate these people, as though without us you're nothing, and that's such a horrible, horrible thing. I mean,
Hmm.
as
I
what
think
I
people are
think.
waking up to it, which is why I think the exit polls for Donald Trump, literally the only demographic he lost in was white males,
Right, right.
which a
Yeah,
lot of people, that's a very uncomfortable truth for people,
it
that
is.
people like us are the only ones he lost out on.
Yeah, darn
Well,
us.
that really, really ruins the narrative, doesn't it?
It would if it would get
For
reported.
anyone wondering about this, you can find this in any exit poll.
Yeah.
I'll look one up. I'll post that in the description. The statistics I spouted off just now about 88% black poverty in 1940, 47% in 1960, the Great Society. All all those are from Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
I'll post that. I'll link that stuff too. So I'm not just pulling this out of my ass.
And the single motherhood rate, which has increased across all demographics, but exacerbatingly so in the demographics for the black family, or
Yeah.
lack thereof at this
No,
point.
that's what I'm saying. The reason it affected them more is because they had the highest poverty rate at the time that it was implemented, by far. They were the fastest risers, but they still had the highest poverty rate. It could not have happened at a worse time. If
Right.
that policy had never passed, I have no doubt that right now black Americans would be the most well-off group in the United States
Yeah,
if it were
absolutely.
not for that policy.
Absolutely. Given that, rate of rise, and I definitely am actually kind of looking forward to seeing this video and actually pulling up some of these statistics. As I love research, and I love to
Hmm.
learn, and I implore everybody to research, do your own research, find out what you're missing. You're never getting the full story. I don't care where you get your media from, whether it's the right or the left. There's always more to know, and you're doing a disservice to yourself and in all likelihood your country if you're not finding out. But I
Tell
guess
me, because you're the one who turned me on to this. What is your kind of methodology for doing your own research? Because you're the best I know at it, obviously. Um,
hours and hours of painstaking searching. No, actually, it's not so bad. First, you've already mentioned one of them is a DuckDuckGo. Find alternate sources of information, knowing that you're going to come across some BS. Okay, that's fair. If you go to any single news article, realize there's already a spin on it. And if there's a study linked or related, go read the damn study. It's not hard. It takes maybe 15, 20 minutes at the most, 5 if, depending on the study. Go to the results section, go to the limitations section. Honestly, it's probably all you're going to need to know, other than maybe looking into the methodology. Keep reading. Don't be afraid of learning something new. And if you don't know, or you feel like you're stuck in maybe a hole where you've not learned anything, keep searching. You're going to find the answers you seek. But yeah, use alternative sources. If you're using Google, if you're a fan of Goggles or Google or whatever they call it, you're gonna have to go about 7 pages down before you find some legitimate results for alternate sources of information and news. So that's why we recommend DuckDuckGo. Not only does it protect your privacy, and no, nobody's paid here from DuckDuckGo, but not only does it protect your privacy,
Not yet, but maybe someday.
maybe, but shameless plug. No,
We can always hope.
right.
But
But no, I mean, it protects your privacy, and it provides you with really what Google was 7 years ago. What Google used to be was an amazing compendium of all information that you could want to find anywhere. Now they rank their listings by not only the number one person who's paying them money, and the number one sources that they approve. And uh, I don't want my information filtered. I want my information raw and uncut, and I want to be able to be an American with a free, enterprising spirit to decide for myself, not be told, not be assigned an opinion. I'll form my own opinion, and that's what I encourage everybody to do.
mind you, I'm going to throw this in there too, and I swear to God, this isn't an ad for DuckDuckGo, but you got to think what makes them marketable and what makes them money is the fact that they're able to provide what Google cannot, in terms of they're not beholden to those big dollars that Google is. That, in a sense, is their niche, that they can go old school the way Google cannot anymore. That's how they make their money. You follow the money, you get what you're looking for. Again, I swear to God, not an ad for DuckDuckGo. Someday, maybe, but not yet.
Yeah.
Someday. Seriously, as of this video, I have like 6 subscribers, so we're not there yet.
That's more than me.
But but hey, that's why I'm meeting with the guy on April 7th. Hopefully that'll change. But
awesome.
I mean, a lot of this stuff too, it's kind of what I want to add to what you said too is and I know you feel the same way on this. What you cannot do if you're gonna be your own journalist, you have to seek the truth. You can't seek liberalism, you can't seek conservatism. You have to go, I want the truth no matter where it leads. In this era, you're going to find that tends to lead more towards conservatism. That may not be true 10, 15, 20 years from now. That may change. Nobody knows what the future holds.
There's a lot of people on both sides that are trying to sway you in one way or another. Make up your own mind. Own your agency. Don't let the Democrats or the Republicans take it away from you. Own your agency.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're going to favor one side or the other, do it of your true own free will and informed opinion. Don't do it because you skimmed 6 articles on Facebook and you saw a meme of Bill Nye the Science Guy saying climate change is real. Be better than that, please.
Yeah.
That's all.
There's plenty of evidence that climate change is real. Go read it. If you come up with a different opinion, that's fine. Enjoy.
Pretty much, you can't say that this day and age. Yeah.
I mean, climate change is real. We may have different ideas or opinions on how to resolve it, or whether or not we can resolve it. I mean,
of course it is. It's a term that you can't test via the scientific method. We'll save that for another video.
We will, but I want to note something that you said earlier, and it wasn't on this video, but you said, oftentimes certain folks, the left, will establish a lie within a lie within a lie, and then compound the lies in order to push the narrative. So by the time you've unraveled the first 3, they're 10 pages down with more lies in a compounding style. And that's why it does take some research. But
Can I cut you off and
yeah.
update the viewers as to what you're talking about? So what I said is I called it, what the heck did I call it? I called it the compounded lie. I called it the compounded lie tactic, which is where you take a false premise and you tell a lie about it. And it makes it's a very difficult thing for somebody trying to argue in good faith to counter, because you are never arguing in good faith to begin with. For example, the Georgia law. Say you go, uh, a bill that endorses voter suppression is very obviously conducted by white supremacists. Well, first off, if you read the Georgia voter bill, you know that it isn't voter suppression. Therefore, second, it's not, it has nothing to do with white supremacists. The whole thing is preposterous. But to a person that doesn't know anything about this and is just listening, and they might believe both of them. Now the problem is, if you're trying to refute that, you have to cite all these reasons why that's not true, whereas all they had to do is throw out a trope. So by the time you're done refuting everything, 10 other people have made similar allegations. This goes back to what the introduction of this episode was about with Chris, which is what this fake Twitter mob does. The fake woke mob, that's what they do. They basically do tons of these attacks on the same person. By the time you get to the end of it, you're trying to refute 90 different things that aren't true.
Right.
It's insanity. And it's designed that way on purpose. That's one of the things you'll notice. If you follow some of the trends that he's talking about here, you'll notice that it's tons of compounded lies. And you can't argue with that in good faith. There's no way to, because you'd have to write a book to do it every single time. And then, even worse, if you do that, you're still on the defensive. You're defending. You're not attacking. Ever played Risk?
You're giving, all the while you're just giving energy to their lie. And take the energy, take the wind out of their sails and say, no, I'm not going to argue this bad faith discussion with you. We want to talk about the bill. We'll talk about all the good things in the bill. We'll, do what we did and talk about how it reduces lines, how it improves voting access, how it creates better security, integrity, and
right,
improves elections overall, which is something we absolutely need. And, honestly, I wish and I really hope that the conservatives would continue to stay on the offensive, or even go more on the offensive.
They should.
And not only call out in cases where compounded lies are occurring, but also go further and start to point out things like, why are the Democrats derelict in their duty to protect and secure our elections? Why? Yeah. Why are they not doing their job? We elect them to ensure that we have good elections, that we are able to run a country, run our society in the way we chose to see fit, and they're representing us. And if they're going to be derelict in their duties, why did we put them there? And that's what needs to happen, and that's what Georgia's taken care of. And at least to some degree, I think they didn't get half of what they wanted in this bill to make sure that it passed to improve.
I mean, hey, give them credit. They put down the policy, but notice they've been, for the most part, rather mum with all the allegations, and that's where we're going wrong.
That can't happen. They need to get out. They need to not only tout the greatness of the bill, but they need to tout the absolute disrespect that the American people are being given by the Democrat Party and by the left in claiming that there's
and by these corporations that are kowtowing to this nonsense.
It's amazing. There's nothing to see here. There's no reason for you to ever worry about our elections. They're totally perfect. They're totally fine.
I know Delta Airlines just got hit with a $30 million tax cut that got taken away. But I honestly think what's more powerful than that is in the public discourse calling them out exactly the way you just said, saying, why are we sponsoring an airline that doesn't believe in American values and voting integrity?
100%.
Hell.
100%. I think if there's anything else, and I know we're putting a lot of work on you at the end of this video, you're going to post all these links and items. If there's anything else you post, I think Coca-Cola, Microsoft, and Delta Airlines headquarters, they need to be called by conservatives. They need to be called by everybody, not just conservatives. They need to be called by all of America to say, because look, all of America, for the most part, the majority of Americans support voter ID. They need to call out these companies and say, why do you not support something that the American people support? Why do you allow the Democrats to drag out this bigoted trope about Black Americans and persons of color not being able to vote like everybody else in society? Why are you even getting into this mess as a Coke company, as an airline? This has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I'd challenge them and say you didn't read the bill, because they didn't.
Absolutely. Not only did you not read the bill, but you followed a fake trend on fake Twitter from fake users or paid shill DNC operative users. You follow these fake trends, and you know what? You're losing customers over it. And I'm sorry, Delta. I'm sorry, Coke. Until you come out and say, you know what, we're done with politics. These are your two options. Either we should never have said anything in the first place. We love this bill because the bill is great, or we're done with politics. You're not going to hear anything else from us. That would be fine. Take a neutral stance.
Yeah, I'd settle for that, honestly. I mean, granted, Delta, their flights are shitty anyway. Just say it.
To be fair, they are. And I mean, Coke hasn't been a decent product since like 1969. I'm sorry, but when they started,
not unless you get the Mexican imported bottles, man. And
exactly, because they use real sugar in that stuff. And I'm not even, the throwback Pepsi is actually quite good. Avid Pepsi supporter now.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I love the Coke bottles, and now I'm like,
it sounds like we're just looking, we're like fishing for advertisers at this point. But no,
I know, right?
Seriously, call to arms, call to people to, oh wait, scratch that, take it off YouTube. No, I'm kidding. Call to people to actually use your agency. Don't let the Democrats, don't let the left, don't let anybody, even the Republicans, take it away from you. Don't be satisfied with silence. Call people. It takes 30 seconds to make a phone call, maybe a minute at the most, and say, you know what, I really don't appreciate you speaking out against a policy that I approve of.
Yeah, and you know what? You're a conservative. You can do that without being rude to the customer agent. You can say, listen, I just wanted to convey a complaint. Please pass it on to your CEO, your marketing team, your customer relations team, whatever you got. Listen, this is how I feel. Can you please pass that on to them? I thought it was weird that a soft drink company is coming out against, American politics that preserve election integrity, especially when they have no problem with Coca-Cola specifically. They don't have any problem importing sugar from China that is basically harvested by Uyghur Muslims who are in concentration camps. That seems really perverse and bizarre to me. And for that reason, even though I think Coca-Cola is a great product, I'm going to be switching to Pepsi from now on. Can you please relay that for me? Yes, this is a recorded line, and we will do that. And thank you. And hey, thank you. It was nice to talk to you. Goodbye. You don't have to go in there, and you don't have to do it like the woke does. Hey, listen here. You're a bad. I hate you, you transphobe. I hope you die. We're better than that. You don't have to.
How many of those phone calls have you received so far? I mean, it sounded like you were speaking from experience.
I've listened to some like that, but I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm hoping to get to that point at some point.
You're hoping to get to the point where
yeah.
I love it. No, and you're absolutely right. Don't let them take your energy. It's you're fighting for what's right. You're fighting for the truth. And,
no, I feed off of those kind of people because they're few and far between, and they're hilarious. So I
live to relax a little. There's nothing worth canceling.
I think the libertarian in me for that, to be honest, the libertarian more so than the conservative feeds off of that negative energy. I'll just suck it up and use it. So
as much as these folks want to claim to be the resistance, they're not.
They're really resisting. No, you can't be the counterculture if you're the culture, even if the culture is manufactured and fake. But
no, yeah, it's interesting.
But that's the whole point of this video too. This is a fake culture. The people that promulgate this stuff are paid, and they're not real. They're not acting in their own self-interest. We saw the screenshot at the beginning of this of that guy's salary. That's unreal. Like, I would probably go around and say stupid things too for $57,000 a year because I could go work another job.
I'd dump on Bernie all day. That, hey, you could get me to do that for free.
Yeah, no, I mean, Seriously, I bet you could find a conservative that would go out there and do that kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, the one thing that comes before your political values is taking care of your family, right? So it's like you could find somebody on the right side of the aisle that's like, well, shoot, if you're going to pay me 57,000 to spin out these tweets, and then I'm going to go work on the side doing re-roofing or something, and I'm clearing 120,000 a year, and I have a good life.
I don't blame the guy. I don't blame him at all.
I
I mean,
don't
I
either.
do it as well. Unfortunately, I don't think the Republican establishment has the same level of savvy on these types of created
Yeah.
messaging atmosphere.
No, we got to find a way to do it, but in a way that's, positive and not completely destructive.
Right. They've had a lot more practice at really digging into people and
To
creating
be
narratives.
fair, and not to excuse the fact that we're behind the game here, but it is easier to be destructive and just plain crazy than it is to put in the energy to go, how can we do this? And, I mean, it's a fine line there.
Mhm.
Anyone who's read Rules for Radicals know that the basic premise for these people is, the ends justify the means.
Right.
It's very easy once you start thinking that way to fall on the wrong side of morality. And the problem is we understand that if you fall on the wrong side of morality too hard or for too long, you're not going to end up with a republic anymore. Something will happen, and then there will be chaos. And it's happened before in history. I would like it to not happen here again, because we got a good thing going here. We really do. So I think it is worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I could probably go on forever. I mean, this was awesome that you shared this with us. The Twitter mob might not be real. It probably isn't real. There's evidence that a lot of it isn't real.
Even if it is real, you're talking about 10% of 22%.
Right?
I can't do the math in my head like you can, but that's a tiny little percent, a little pocket of America. We shouldn't even care. And if the news is reporting on that same trends that they create, why do we care? It's just them talking to themselves.
66 million is 22% of America, roughly in that ballpark. So you're talking, it'd be more like 70 million, and then you're talking about 7 million Americans that are crazy about this compared to like 330 million.
Right. And 73% of the political content is driven by 6% of the users. The other, something like 90. It's the same people over and over and over again. I'm saying, I've seen it. Go look, you'll see the pattern.
So you're talking about a subset of the 7 million people.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of the 7 million people are like, I'm tweeting about what happened in the Major League Baseball game.
Right. Yeah, they go to see sports scores. They maybe do 2 tweets a month or something. They don't care. They don't even look at Twitter other than maybe once a week, or, scroll through it and go, okay, that was bored. I'm going back to Facebook to see what Donald Trump said. At least back when he was able to say things. But there's no, and we'll talk about that at another time. There's no censorship, guys. It doesn't happen.
Correct.
But anyways, yeah, most of the people that even use Twitter don't even care about, these political edits. But
I'm going to have you on the next episode to talk about how Donald Trump basically tricked the far left into turning himself into a commodity, which is incredible.
It's going to be an amazing episode, honestly, because it really is. I'm looking forward to it.
I don't think he's a 4D chess player at politics. I think he's honestly a 1D chess player. Like, hey, this is good. Let's do that.
Well, he says, like, he just goes with his gut, and for whatever reason, things tend to work out for him. And when he pointed that out, I was like, oh my gosh, he did literally just. And yeah, we definitely. You know what? Let's save that for the next episode, because
in the business world, though, he might just be a 4D chess player, and
you definitely want to watch the next episode, because Chris is going to unravel this bombshell. You have no idea. It's going to be amazing. So keep an eye out.
It's freaking funny. It'll probably be a lot shorter than this one, but then again, maybe people enjoyed it. I don't know. I sometimes have an attention span that can be measured in nanoseconds, so it can
Squirrel.
be difficult.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a benefit. It's a feature, not a flaw, I would say. But awesome. Well, I really appreciate you having me on. And yeah, have me back anytime.
Well, you're my source, so it won't be the last time. Anyhow, well, this was full disclosure. Now, obviously, we don't do any kind of monetization here at this time. If you like what we do, subscribe. The big thing, the main thing I'm going to be doing here starting shortly is full disclosure. I'm going to fully disclose everything that we go over, cover, and do during my tenure in City Council for the city of Chippewa Falls. You'll be able to hear direct from me with citations and sources, and you won't have to depend on a media figure in order to do that. You'll be able to see exactly what we're doing, why I'm doing it, what I'm thinking as topics and all sorts of things arise during my tenure. If you want to be a part of that, if you want to know what's going on in your community, if you want to know what it's like to be a local elected official, hit that bell and subscribe. Helps out a ton. Other than that, we will see you next time when we talk about Trump turning himself into a commodity.
Awesome.
Thank you, and that is all.